Hello once again and welcome to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. This is Steve Gamache, and what we have in this episode is under the Yahiko name for Chef Knives to Go. We have the Shidogami White No. 2 Nashiji Gyuto 210mm knife. So the core steel on these is Shidogami, also known as white paper No. 2 steel from Hitachi. It's a high carbon reactive steel, and the heat treat's about 61, maybe 62 Rockwell. They do that by eye and by color, so it's not a scientific measurement, but that's kind of what they shoot for. The construction is 3 layers, so there's a soft stainless steel cladding on either side of that Shidogami No. 2, and you can really easily see the core steel and where the cladding meets the core steel in these. They have a nice aesthetic effect. I've been using this one, so it's got some patina going on it, and we'll get a close-up look at it. On this one, I've seen some different ones, but they have kind of a thin layer of cladding over the top of the spine. So this particular one looks like it has a little bit of core steel peeking through because I see a little bit of staining there. So you may just want to make sure you keep the spine dry on these. So take a close look. If you do see some core steel exposed at the spine, then make sure you keep that dry as well. This one does have that on it. So it's not obvious, but I guess it depends on the particular knife. So let's take a look at the specs and dimensions on these, which can vary a little bit from knife to knife since these are hand-hammered and hand-made, hand-forged. The weight on this one's about 151 grams or 5.3 ounces. Edge length is about 215 millimeters on the edge with a little bit of an oversize, and that's pretty consistent between two samples, about 8.5 inches. So that's kind of cool. Get a little bit oversized 210, which gets you not to a 240 or anything, but gives you a little bit more room to play with, and they can make the profile a little more relaxed. The overall length about 352 millimeters or 13.8-ish inches. The spine thickness, these are fairly thick coming out of the handle, but they thin up really nice at the edge, so the performance on these is just outstanding. So this one's about 3.75 millimeter on coming out of the handle above the chin or back of the blade. And then I measured about halfway down, and it's about 2.1 millimeters, so it thins down pretty quick. And then it's really not a total continuous distal taper, but as you get towards the grind, which is pretty generous, it thins out some more. So we'll actually, let's just bring it in right now. We'll take a look at that right off the bat here. So again, fairly thick coming out of the handle, thins up to about half of that, 2.1, not quite half, but 2.1 about halfway down. And then you can see where the grind starts, it gets really thin at the tip. And the tip on this just obliterates soft product like onions, just destroys them. So even though it doesn't have a lot of taper, the tip is very high performance. The blade height is about 45 3/4 on this one, so they'll be in that 46-ish range. The handle is just a well-executed basic octagonal ambidextrous hoe wood with a buffalo horn ferrule. This particular one has just a slight bump between the ferrule and the wood. I've seen a variety of samples on these. Some are dead smooth, some have a little bit, but they're well executed and well done. They've got a tight install where the tang meets the handle, so that's well executed and well done. And the circumference is about 75, 76 millimeter where the ferrule meets the wood, and pretty standard size for this type of knife. Let's take a close-up look at the blade. These have a lot of craftsmanship in them. They've got a great look. You can see you've got some hand-chiseled kanji right there that's also well executed. And they've got a what's known as a Nashiji or pear skin finish. These have a bit more texture to the Nashiji finish than some knives, let's say like the Masakage Yuki, for example. It has a very interesting element to the aesthetic on the blade. You can see that peeking through on the grind. I think that's really cool myself. And again, this has some patina on it because I've been using it. They have a really cool aesthetic effect too, almost like an extra layer peeking out where it meets the where the cladding meets the core steel. And they've got a frosted effect on the grind line or the blade road. This one, it does seem like the cladding stains ever so slightly, so sometimes stainless cladding isn't like full stainless like in your forks and spoons that you use at home, but so this may show just a little bit of staining over time. You could always polish it out if you wanted to, but the cladding the core steel, of course, is going to get a nice patina going on it over time. Out of the box edge on these is really quite good. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The grind seems fairly 50-50. And the profile on these, actually before we hit the profile, the fit and finish is well done. They've got a polished spine, rounded, polished and rounded choil on them. So the fit and finish is really, really well done. And all the blades I've seen have been really straight, nice grinds on them. Let's look at the profile. So these have a nice flat section at the heel. And let's look at it on the cutting board. It's easier to show you that. So these are consistent across all 4 Gyutos that I saw between the 2 knife lines on the Yahiko. And they've all had a very similar profile. The 240s are a little more stretched out, but they've got a pretty flat heel section in the back 40% of the blade. Nice for chopping. They've got a gentle rise to a belly, not an aggressive belly, but I can still get pretty high on it. So it's just a great combination. It's a really smooth profile on all 4 knives. So that's a sign of a quality craftsmanship and, quality grind job on it. And it flows into a stop, but it's not like a huge boom stop on the heel. So it's just a nice flow to a pretty good flat section. So this should work for quite a good variety of techniques. It's a very versatile profile. So this should accommodate most techniques with ease. Performance on this is simply outstanding. The tip's great. They're thin at the edge. This thing destroys soft product. It also has low wedging. Big carrots didn't wedge too much. And I cut cabbages in half and quarters and it just popped through them. No getting stuck. It's just one continuous flow if you just put a little, authority into it. And so, this is just a great knife. So excellent, excellent knife. Excellent performance. Stiff blade, confidence inspiring, a little bit of mass. Let's see, I don't think we did the balance point yet. Make sure I do that. So the balance point, the handles are light, so that brings the balance point right there. A little behind the kanji on this. And for me, that's almost right on the money on a pinch grip. It's pretty close. And so that gives the knife a real nimble feel. So just an outstanding new knife line that Mark has brought in. So this is the Yahiko Shitogami No. 2 Nashiji Gyuto 210mm knife.